All right. So thank you for joining us for another Workshop Wednesday this week. I'm Jennifer Slattery with the League of Cities and Towns, as I think most of you know. And I'm really excited to have our friend Chris Bell here from C3.ai and to talk and demystify some of the world of AI for us, and specifically as it relates to assessments and what's going on in that space. So thanks for being here, Chris. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I appreciate the introduction and happy to be here today. Really, as Jen said, just here to give an overview of, what's going on in the AI space, especially as it relates to state and local governments and particularly for assessors. But, happy to go into some of the other use cases of municipal government. And just to give you a, quick run on the agenda, again, I'll make a quick introduction about C3, then talk about how AI is impacting mass appraisal, especially, talk about office optimization in general. And then we also have some time for Q&A at the end too. And if anything comes up during this presentation, please feel free to raise your hand or come off mute. Happy to answer any questions. And it's a new space, a lot of questions come up and happy to go where's most useful for everyone here. Just to give a quick overview of C3.ai, I've been there for 2 years now in the state and local government space. The company's around for 16 years. It's publicly traded under the ticker AI, based in Redwood City, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And over those 16 years, companies invested over $2 billion in developing the fundamental platform that supports all of our AI applications. And we have about 1,200 employees worldwide now, which support all of our applications, range from state and local to the federal government, and also in the commercial space where we do a lot of work with industrial reliability and supply chain optimization. Looking specifically at where C3 is active in state and local government, property appraisal was one of our first forays into the area. We've had that application for about 5 years now. And the idea is to just improve the workflow and provide more accurate, equitable values for properties. We also have a new application that I call Government IQ, which helps streamline paperwork. We've seen a lot of excitement about that one. A lot of tedious paperwork can now be automated with AI, freeing up more time for dealing with constituents or other more value add things than typing in information or transcribing things. We also have a generative AI application, which I'll touch on a little bit. And think of this as sort of like a chat GPT, but it's optimized for a particular municipality's needs, whether it's specific documents, acronyms, things like that, instead of being a general tool that's searched from the whole internet. They'll also talk about, some of the consumer and widely available AI tools as well, which are excellent. I use them every day. I recommend everyone use them every day to help with things like drafting emails or summarizing things. We also have a law enforcement application, which I won't touch on today, but if any of you in your towns or cities are interested in this, what it does is it connects different databases together to give a single pane of glass that allows, patrol officers, command staff, investigators to be able to solve crimes more efficiently instead of logging into and out of different databases and spending time doing that. But, really what I'll start off with though is, again, a high-level overview of how AI is impacting the assessment profession, where you probably heard generative AI, but also it can be used for condition ratings, identifying sales comparables, automated evaluation models, which is something I'll talk about in detail, and also just process automation as well, streamlining things that are repeatable to allow more time to be spent on, unique properties or dealing with constituents or commercial valuations. So really for today, again, sort of goals are overview of the basics. I want to give everyone on this call some practical knowledge you can start using today, including, some of the common AI chatbots, which other companies offer, and also just a foundation to ask questions off in the future. This technology is new. Well, actually, I'll get into it. It's sort of old in some ways, but it's been developing rapidly. So I want everyone to know what it's good at, what it's bad at, and what questions to ask when looking at using this technology, either in the assessor's office or across government. But as I mentioned, technology, it recently blew up just a few years ago with ChatGPT and generative AI. But really, the origins go back to 1956 when some of the first AI systems were put together. And over those intervening decades, the systems have it's evolved by fits and starts, where an advance would be made, it would plateau, another advance would be made, plateaued. And what we've seen in just the past couple of years is the rate of advancement has been improving rapidly with the development of a new technology called large language models, which are good, both at generating new text, but also a wide variety of things, even like computer vision, which is something I'll go into in a little bit because that's having a huge impact on the assessing profession. Now, as I mentioned, so we have machine learning and AVMs, automated valuation models, where the idea is being able to train the AI to value property based on other property values. Then you have computer vision, which is taking in pictures, images, videos, and using AI to describe those. And then also generative AI, which is generating text, videos, and other things like that, which I'll talk a bit last. Just to start off with the AVM area, this is something where IAAO has been looking at it for quite some time. Everyone knows AI is coming. Now the question is, now that it's here, what's the impact? And what we've seen in C3, we've worked with property assessors, across the country. I think we're up to over 25 states now, including some projects we did in Rhode Island. And what we're seeing is when assessors use AI to enhance their workflows, they get better accuracy, vastly improved efficiency, and much better consistency as well. Where this technology is able to augment what a human is able to do and pull in more data or streamline common tasks or be able to look at properties with a sort of high level view that is really difficult to do, with just one person. With AI, so to put in a lot of data from different sources together and therefore able to get these improvements in accuracy, efficiency, and consistency. Talk a little bit about like this C3 property appraisal application looks like specifically is, what we do is we combine again all these different data sources into dashboards, and then also we generate valuation models too to help estimate what property values will be in your jurisdiction. So again, we have the dashboards, and then we also write back into Canvas systems. We don't offer a Canvas system, but we make it so there's any changes made in the C3 application are then written back into Canva to avoid needing to do double entry there. We also align data between MLS and Canvas sources as well. If there's any inconsistencies, there's different AI and other data science techniques that can be able to use to match those data sources. We also put together evidence packages, which is a critical thing. Many people say AI is a black box, they can't trust it. And that's something as a company we focused a lot on, making sure AI is explainable. When it's coming up with evaluation, why did it come up with it? What's a positive contributor? What's a negative contributor? What's a major contributor? What's a minor contributor? And I'll show you that in a brief demo in a little bit. Then we also do automatic monitoring and maintenance of models. We see this, both for small jurisdictions, also large jurisdictions. We've worked with some counties out in California that have 1 million parcels, and they have multiple models. So what we're able to do is monitor those automatically. And that's something where smaller towns in the Northeast, I'm from Connecticut, from a small town, but still those models can still be very complicated. So we want to track their performance over time. And where necessary, we also offer access controls as well. I mentioned earlier, we have law enforcement applications that work with the federal government. So that's something C3 is very well versed in because there's some data where even if it's public data, it may be better to have a restricted access to it to make sure that no unauthorized changes are made. Some of the data sources that, the C3 application in particular can combine are things like internal records, your roles, property characteristics, anything out of your Canvas system. We can also pull in third-party data, including market reports, MLS, images, any other sales comps. And then also pulling in GIS and location details. Often, everyone on this call knows that property value can be impacted by proximity to a hospital or to the coast. That's all important things that figure into these models to help make the most accurate values. And really, to give it a sense of this workflow, I'll show a demo a little bit, but it starts with the ability to view pending appraisals. And then the AI actually, selects high priority parcels. There's some that the AI is good at valuing and some that it's not because it's maybe it's unique property or it's showing a major divergence between the AI model and the previously recorded appraised value. So what it does is selects those high priority parcels, cleans the data automatically, predicts what the value should be, and then routes them to either an automatic appraisal or for human review. One thing I do want to emphasize is C3 as a company, we believe there should always be a human in the loop for approval. So no changes are made, without a human specifically asking the AI to make those changes or approve them. We do have some workflows to allow for, mass amount of changes of multiple properties at once. But again, someone has to click the button to do that. We want to make sure that someone's responsible and someone with domain knowledge is making the final decision. And then finally, we also put together evidence packages, as I mentioned, which is critical for defending these AI values to constituents or, even in case of an appeal. And beyond just the AVMs, AI can also evaluate images, select comparables as, again, another area of evidence, forecast income, and help manage appeals, which are all things I'm happy to talk about a little later if there's any questions there. And some just key benefits before I dive into the demo are increased capacity, especially in small offices, there's never enough people, there's always more work to go around. So streamlining some of the common things of uploading databases is a great use case for AI. It could also reduce reval costs as well, whereby able to use statistical modeling, revals can then be done more quickly, more efficiently, and at a reduced cost. And then finally, improve uniformity, especially across jurisdictions that have very different neighborhoods. By using AI and able to look at data from a very high level, increased uniformity is a major benefit of using this technology. And here, what I'm just going to do is sort of guide you through a quick demo of what the C3 property appraisal application looks like to just show what these workflows look like when actually using the application.
Chris,
Yes.
we aren't able to see your screen.
Oh, have you been able to see it at all?
No, I sent you a little note, but it's we were definitely following what you were saying. I just weren't able to see your screen. I figured for the demo that would be very important.
That would be yeah. Can you see this now? Because it's saying I'm screen sharing.
Let me make sure it's not something that's weird. Can anyone else see it? I don't
I
see
can
it.
see the screen.
You can?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I apologize. I, for some reason, am not able to, but we'll figure that out. Go
Like,
ahead.
have you been able to see it the whole time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
everybody else has got the same thing I have. They should say so, but I can see most everything there.
Great.
All right. Apologize.
I'll give you a demo another time, Jen. Yeah, that's saying, here for this demo, it's just going to show some of the workflows of the C3 application specifically. So really at the top here, we have, sort of a number of metrics, and these are all configurable based on, the jurisdiction. This is showing Florida in this case. But again, things tracking things like PRD and COD and any other metrics that you'd want to monitor as part of making sure that your appraisals are accurate and equitable. We also show maps, being able to show how this changes across neighborhoods or zones. Again, this can be done at a county level, can be done at a town or city level as well. To again show, are there certain neighborhoods that maybe have more unique properties or ones that need less attention because the model is already showing strong values there. And then going beyond that, one thing that we're really excited about is using this AI technology, we're able to offer the ability to actually generate your own visualizations on the fly. So think here, it's actually just typing in what you'd want to see instead of figuring out, how to set up a Power BI dashboard. You're actually able to just type in, for instance, what's the total appraised value in the last 5 roll years, and then generate that graphic automatically and can be added to the dashboard to be used in the future. This is something that can be done for any sort of question you might want to ask of your data to be able to then persist it across anyone in your office who'd want to see that. Looking at some other things that, assessors often want to track, looking at different metrics by neighborhood as well. Then right here, this is the mass appraisal screen, where what we're showing here is these are all the different properties that are pending appraisal still. And earlier I mentioned, the idea of high priority versus low priority. So the AI has identified this first one as a high priority parcel, which means it's a high priority for review. Now, for the low priority ones, where the AI is more confident in it, what we're able to do is essentially mass appraise those at the AI value or at the previous appraised value, or any one of those options there. And again, with a comment to confirm and justify why that decision was made is then recorded in the system for auditability going forward. But now looking at this high priority parcel, what you offer here is the ability to click in and see, at a very detailed level, this is from CAMA data, this is from any other data sources connected, and try to figure out what is the right value for this property. So for instance, with an MLS connection, can pull in images as well, and also will show all the data that's being pulled in from both CAMA and MLS. And this gives you the ability to compare side by side, to be able to, what we call something like sanitize or clean this data, to be able to update if maybe there was an addition made that, wasn't reported. Now you're able to look at the most current pictures and make an adjustment based on the MLS value, if that appears to be correct. Or if the MLS value is wrong, then keep the previously recorded CAMA value there. And it'll actually then regenerate the AI value based on those changes. Again, if number of bedrooms, it will then increase the AI value or vice versa. And here's the evidence package I was talking about, where what it's doing is breaking out its property and what are the positive and negative contributors to the AI value. Has a pool, positive. Half bound count below the median for property for the area, negative value, and so on and so forth. And really what we've heard from other assessors, this is critical to be able to defend these values in case of appeals or just a constituent asking questions. We don't want it to be a black box. We want to say, here's the value, here's how we got to it, to support that this is the right value for the given property. One thing we also do is have the AI actually find sales comparables that maybe some of your office is newer and doesn't know a neighborhood well, or if you're new to a jurisdiction, to actually use AI to find what are the similar properties and be able to surface those to then use in case of appeals or use in making your own value judgments there. And what's shown here is an appraisal action here to again appraise at the AI value, because after interrogating the data and looking at it, the AI value appears to be accurate. And then as a final step, one thing we offer is the ability to generate reports too. Again, want to have a paper trail to be able to justify any evaluations, or in case just to have something in the office to pass around, can download all this information into a PDF. Things like the title, background, all very customizable for the needs of you and your office. So with that, just going to make a, move on into the computer vision part. Again, any questions, happy to dive into anything, or at the end, also happy to go back as well. I think computer vision is one of the most interesting areas right now for the impact that's going to have, where, again, what the AI is doing is learning from experience. Humans growing up, we learn this is a cat, this is a dog. And similarly, an AI can be trained to look at what is the value of a property. There's been some interesting, many companies have been doing this over the past few years and trying to figure out, based on taking a picture of a property, what's the value of it? And the way it does it is, what it does is it breaks down any image into very specific attributes. Where, for instance, looking at this one on the left, what it's doing is looking at, the light, the size, the general tone of the room. And what it's able to do is and it connects all these. And what it will do is take hundreds and hundreds of comparisons and then compare, okay, an image with these characteristics is mapped to a property of high value. One with these characteristics to low value. And one thing to watch out for is, again, this is obviously a staged room in this picture on the left. And that, the AI is very susceptible to the training data. If, AI is trained on all these staged rooms, for instance, if it's then dealing with a bare room, it might struggle to look at that, and then vice versa. So you want to make sure that in any AI training set, the images going in are representative of the properties that is then being used to model. This is something, again, right now the industry is pretty new, but it's something that will be changing over time as more and more data gets ingested into these models and they get better and better at being able to predict what a value might be. Some main uses of it that I just want to go through are change detection. Many of you have probably dealt with some of the companies that will use aerial imagery and be able to map and see, has a pool been built? Has a roof been redone? That's a great use of computer vision right now. It's a pretty mature one. The technology is, pretty advanced and, pretty hard and able to figure out, has an addition been made? And you can automatically look at that as well. It's also good at data ingestion, which is taking in text from anything scanned and even handwritten documents and being able to turn it into text to be able to then search it. And can also identify features and objects in pictures and label them. And then condition rating is an emerging area. We're starting to do it now as a company. Several others are as well. And that goes back to that picture of the bedroom where with enough examples, it can actually categorize condition accurately. There is something where it does show with unique properties. I was sitting through a presentation once where someone was showing this, and the AI was looking at a picture of essentially a manor house, but it was an older one. And it viewed it as a low condition because of the characteristics. It was, made of stone, it had ivy on it. In its training set had been correlated with abandoned properties, even though this was a very high value, very unique property with, the associated market value. Just to show what this sort of looks like, in the C3 application is, not only are the pictures taken in, but each part of it's actually, each picture is weighted a little bit too. Where a picture of the outdoor might be worth 5%, image of the living room might be worth 60%. And all that's combined and generated this, image rating as well. Again, it's something where it's newer, we always make sure that the assessor is agreeing with it because it can be tricked, as I mentioned before, but it's something to look out for as this technology progresses over the next couple of years. With that, I'm going to dive a little bit into generative AI. And what generative AI is good at, if any of you use ChatGPT or any of you have not, what it does is it takes a large corpus of documents, and what it's able to do is search and summarize across them. Just to give an example of, what this could look like for a pretty complex document is, can even take, we did a project where we took a bond document, and this is a large, several hundred page document, and it is able to search across all those pages and summarize it, pull out the key information, and just surface it to the user. And this is what AI is really good at. It can take these long documents and accurately summarize them. There is one thing to watch out for, and you may have heard, it's called hallucination, which is a key thing to look out for, where because the AI is just predicting what the next word will be, if it's not configured correctly, it can definitely hallucinate, some incorrect information. One thing we do as a company, as we deploy these for governments, is we bring that hallucination ratio all the way down to 0 by being able to check the summary against the base data and only ensuring the accurate information is surfaced there. But that is something to look out for. It's something that technology is getting better at avoiding as time goes on, but especially if you're using a consumer tool, that is something where it can make up answers and it'll sound very confident about it, which is, again, always good to look at the source data. I think of it a bit like Wikipedia, 15 or 20 years ago, where it's written on the internet, can't trust it. Nowadays, it's pretty well curated, but in those early days, always key to look at the source data behind it. And, many of you may have heard, but here I just want to give, an overview of some of the consumer-facing tools that, again, I'd encourage people to take a look at and try out. You have ChatGPT, which is probably the most popular one. But then you also have Google Gemini. There's one called Claude from Anthropic, Microsoft Copilot, one called Perplexity, which offers internet search as well as AI powered. And, really all these are good in different ways. I find like Gemini is often the best with images because it has all the YouTube training data behind it. The one Grok is one connected to Twitter or X. So it's really good at, real-time updates based on what's being tweeted about. And then Copilot's often integrated in different Microsoft products. Many of you may have it already. So that's a really good one to use for basic tasks like drafting an email or summarizing something. And then some just low and no cost ways to just get started with AI, if you haven't used it already, is research and search is probably the first one, where now AI chatbots will actually link to the web pages if you ask it a question. So I'll not only give you an answer, but also link you to the source documents. Even Google, this is just the past few days, offers an AI mode now, where if you do a Google search, there's a tab there and you click on images or you click on AI mode, and it'll give you an AI summary. It's also good for just basic office work. I mean, the other day I had this Word document I'd gone through so many edits where all the bullets were messed up. I changed one thing and every other bullet point would be moved over. And after wrestling with it for a couple minutes, I'm like, wait, we have AI here. Plugged into Microsoft Copilot and asked it, please fix the formatting. And then within 3 seconds, it had fixed the formatting and adjusted all the bullet points and all the bolding. It was able to then, download it and be able to go on with my day. That's something, again, it's really, really good at doing things like that. And then drafting summarization, rephrasing emails, making something shorter, making something longer. That's something where, again, any of those tools I showed on the other page are really good at doing that. There is, some things though to look out for is, security is the number one. Or unless you're using an official government enterprise AI tool, be aware that anything typed or uploaded is not secure, especially if you're dealing with any information related to your municipality. Definitely be aware of that. That said, if you have, for instance, an enterprise copilot agreement with your town, then that's going to be safe and will be, it won't be uploaded into the servers that are then used to train this AI. But definitely check with your IT director on that to make sure it's something that's officially deployed for your city or by the state. I also want to be sure to provide instructions. I like to think of these tools as it's sort of like a very enthusiastic, very capable intern, but you need to give it instructions. So tell it to be formal, tell it to be informal, brief, long, what the audience is. It's, giving those extra instructions really helps you get the best results out of it. And finally, you want to break complex tasks down. For instance, once I had this long PDF document where I wanted to put it into an Excel, and when I fed the whole thing in, it couldn't do it. When I asked it, okay, do the first 20 rows, then it was able to pull it in. So again, like that intern, don't give it a bunch of instructions at once, give it something, then tell it to do the next thing, and then the next thing. It's going to be faster, you'll get better results out of it. And now I just want to move into a sort of case study I did of showing what can be done with a consumer grade AI tool. Or again, if you work with C3 or any other enterprise provider, we're able to configure things and be able to really force the AI to think deeply about things. But even consumer grade tools are becoming increasingly powerful. So this here is a picture I just got offline of a house in New England. And asking the AI to describe this house, and what it's able to do is look at this image and come up with a pretty detailed description: the roof, the deck, the bistro lights on it, and just give a view of the general feel of this house. But something to look out for is AI can also be used to modify images. Previously you wouldn't have that Photoshop experience, and now with a few prompts of make this house look old and run down, the AI is able to modify that image. And I haven't heard of this happening yet, but I can imagine there may be someone's arguing for a reduction in the value of the house, and they may submit an image that's been modified a little bit, where previously they need to know how to modify an image, and now with 5 minutes they can do it. Or to reverse it, asking, how would AI look at value in a property? And this is something where, ask ChatGPT, an estimated between the one on the left and one on the right would be a 15 to 25% increase in value, which seems awfully low. And I asked a number of assessors this, and they agree that would be a much, much higher increase in value. And just to look at why the AI came up with that, I think really shows the limitations and the capabilities of this technology and what the evolving role of an assessor is. So it's actually able to look at things like what's the cost of siding, roof replacement, what's the value of that? What's the value of a deck? But what it lacks is judgment, local knowledge, and even just common sense. I think anyone looking at that previous picture would be like, okay, it's going to be more than a 15% increase in value, or would know that, metal roofs in this area are not going to increase the value or would increase the value. Oh, yeah, and then actually, and what we'll do is actually link to that, actually link to the source as well. I actually clicked on one of the links there and it zoomed me out of the PowerPoint. Just give me a second here. All right, here we go again. So yeah, it lacks the common sense and some signs that AI is being used to look out for. Again, if someone's maybe submitting a picture that you think may be doctored, is look for any visual oddities. For instance, when asked it to make the house look old, it put an antique bathtub in place of the hot tub. Anyone modifying the picture would know not to do that, but the AI says old antique bathtub, puts that in. The other thing to look for is any words or fine details. It often struggles with very, very small details where if you think it's trained on all these images, so the thing in the middle is really good at it, like could be a face or something like that. But you get to like fingers or individual text or something like that, it often struggles to replicate those accurately. And then also there's some verbal tics where, the other day I got an email from a technology partner we work with, and I could tell, it said, oh, here's a professional summary of our offerings. And it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure someone just copy paste this out of Copilot ChatGPT and sent this over to me. It also uses a lot of these M dashes as well. And again, we'll like rephrase the question when responding. So these are just things to look out for. If you get an email looks sort of odd and has a lot of M dashes, or again, has this weird rephrasing in it, that's a sign someone used AI and maybe didn't review it before sending that email to you. And just some thoughts on how the assessor's rule is evolving in response to all this is common sense checks are critical. This is, the most important thing where the AI is good at doing, it's not good at thinking. Can't think like a human, it won't catch the same mistakes. And also outlier evaluation is another area where in any type of AI, the thing it's really good at is taking a lot of data, finding the commonalities, and extrapolating from that. If something's a unique property, it's a one of a kind seaside estate or something like that, not going to be good at valuing that. If it's a neighborhood that has unique characteristics, not going to be good at valuing that. That's where you need that critical judgment to be able to come up with what is the value of this property. Similar with local knowledge, it can be trained, but it still struggles. It's not going to know as much about your town as you will. And then finally, being sure about what data is going in. It's only as good as data that's fit into it. So it's really critical to make sure that only proper data is put in. And then briefly, I'm going to switch to some ways to improve office efficiency, and then it will open up for questions, at the very end. Earlier I mentioned with generative AI, it's good at reading documents and pulling in data. And to give one example, is we worked with a recorder's office to pull in all their deeds of record to be able to build a tool that is able to determine if something's qualified or needs to be sent back to the submitter. And one thing that made this complicated is there are over 1,000 pages of different manuals that determine if a given deed or other document type was valid or not. So what we're able to do is use AI to, one, turn those 1,000 pages of documents into a set of rules for when we made a document qualified. And then also use AI to scan these documents automatically to come up with, is this deed of record or substitution trustee or financial statement meeting all the criteria for inclusion in the records. Just to show an example of, what one of these looks like is, again, these are scans, they're not always the highest quality, there might be some handwriting on them. So these are things that can be, pretty difficult traditionally for a machine to look at. But what we're able to do is this technology is becoming so powerful now is we're able to come up with all the required checks across different categories. Being able to check, is the legal description there? Is the application parcel number there? Is the quality there? Is it clear enough? Is it the right grayscale, or is it too black and white, or are there colors in it? And then also looking at indexing and making sure, all those, again, criteria are all there. And one thing, though, again, we keep a human loop, though, for audits and escalation. Now I'll get into some of the errors that AI can come up with, and again, what the role as a human in that review process. You know, one of the big things that we spend a lot of time on is configuring this for legibility. So what you see here is you have a positive and negative, which are things that are, you know, passed by both the recorder's office and AI. And then we have passed by AI, but failed by the recorder's office. And then negative, failed by both the AI and the recorder's office. And then these sort of false negatives, which are failed by the AI, but would have been passed by the recorder's office. And this is probably the most important, one of the most important things when using AI is figuring out aligning. You want to make sure AI and humans are making the same decision here. And if it's going to make an error, which side you want that error to be on. You know, and to look at what this is if the document is marked as passed and a human would agree, that's great. If it's marked as if marked as passed but a human wouldn't agree, this is, you know, the biggest issue here, because then it might be an improper recording or disbursement of a document. On the other side, if the AI marks documents fail, but a human would pass it, then the human in loop review is going to catch that. Or in this case of this document, you know, it might be sent back for resubmission. And then if the submitter says, you know, this really should pass, again, the human's going to catch that and be able to enter that record in. So it's just important to look at, you know, these false positives, false negatives, and just continue to evaluate what's important for your office. Is it better to, you know, record it and change it later, or better to not record it and then, you know, need some feedback in order to re-enter this information? But one thing we found is this AI technology is really good at looking at these documents, even ones that are messy or low quality scans. You know, it's able to just scan them, find the information, assess the quality of it, and make sure all the rules required are being followed. There's some things that it's less good at, you know, with some of the deeds that are in pretty low quality, it's not able to find, you know, all of the rules. But in terms of looking at, you know, is it hitting the right grayscale calculations? You know, is it doing the math correctly? It's perfect on those. And then just to look at, you know, what some of this, you know, looks like is, you know, it's able to not like show again the evidence package of here's the analysis results. Or then show, you know, at a high level, if someone's reviewing, you know, how the office is performing on its review of documents, how the AI is performing, able to show, okay, all these are passing, here's the ones that are failing, and then prioritize those for review going forward. And with that, I want to open the floor to any questions and want to offer, you know, 2 books for anyone interested in learning more about AI. The one on the left regarding guardrails, which is about, you know, how humans can work with AI in order to help AI make good decisions and what to allow AI to make decisions on and what not to. The one on the right is what is ChatGPT doing and why does it work? And it's a really great, you know, it breaks down in a very basic, non-technical way, you know, how does ChatGPT work and why does it work? It answers exactly what the title says. It gets a little in the weeds in the middle of the book, but if you read the beginning, you read the end, again, great high-level overview, very readable. It's a short book. It's only about 80 pages or so. So with that, happy to answer any questions anyone has, or if anything comes up later, please feel free to email me at chris.bell@c3.ai. But thank you all for doing it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. So we'll open it up for questions. If anybody, we're a small group, so if you want to take yourself off mute, please feel free, or you could enter something in the chat if that's not an option for you. All right. Don't see any questions. So with that, what I will say is thank you to Chris. This was super informative, and we would love to have you back and learn about some of the other applications. And then for anybody who does have questions, Chris, I'm sure you'll send me the PowerPoint and I can share it out with everyone. That's okay.
Yeah.
And we have the recording, of course.
Most of it will be there.
Okay, great. So we will be all set with that. Okay, thank you, folks. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you all.
Thank you.